If you have been around the church for a while, you may have noticed that there's a certain rhythm to the way we structure our worship and other activities. Some of it coordinates with the secular calendar. For example, we tend to follow the school year in scheduling our education programs. But right now, I'm thinking of our liturgical calendar. That calendar is structured around our major sacred festivals: Easter in the spring, Pentecost in early summer, and of course, Christmas in early winter. Using those festivals as anchors, we fill in the other ways we will experience the presence of God and enhance our faith walk. Summer is always a long stretch of what we call ordinary time, that long series of numbered Sundays. Today is the last one for this year, the 23rd Sunday after Pentecost, in case you haven't been counting. Think back to your math classes. Do you remember ordinal numbers? The ones that follow along in order. That's where we get ordinary. Of course, that long ordinary season also lacks any major festivals, so the season is ordinary in that way too. Right now, we are winding down the church year. In the church, New Year's Day is always the first Sunday of Advent, which is 4 Sundays before Christmas, 2 weeks from today, in case you need to be counting that. And every year in November, the world around us is looking ahead to Christmas, planning Thanksgiving feasts, perhaps thinking about ways to be grateful. We're doing those things too, but we also have to listen to some tough words from Jesus, from the prophets, and from the New Testament letter writers. Today, Jesus is telling us about a series of bad things that are going to happen. Wars and insurrections, earthquakes, imprisonment, and the temple, that most beautiful and important sacred structure, destroyed. Not perhaps what we want to hear right now or ever. And yet, as we look around our world today and face the challenges that come to us, perhaps we might take a moment. We can probably relate to this kind of chaotic world Jesus is describing. And so maybe Jesus has something to teach us about living in such a world. Think for a moment about what he said about the temple. And if you are a history buff and you want to really place yourself in the scene, you should know that scholars believe that Luke actually wrote this gospel account after the temple had already been destroyed. This was not a prophecy he was giving. It was an attempt to help the people make sense of their difficult reality. That temple had been beautiful, a spectacular building to honor God and to inspire the people's worship. And yet, it was destroyed in 70 CE by the Romans. Even a structure that seemed so strong, so permanent, was reduced to rubble. Think about our own special structures. Start with our churches, this very building. We want to think that it will always be here to honor God and to inspire people's worship. It was carefully designed and built to last. We try to take good care of it. But when we're realistic, We have to admit that there may come a time when this building is no longer able to serve that purpose. Even structures that are much older and larger than ours don't last forever. Do you remember 2019 when fire ravaged through Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris? And I can think of many local examples of church buildings that have been repurposed or even razed. None of our monuments, neither sacred nor secular, lasts forever. I wonder if, with all this gloom and doom sounding speech, if Jesus is trying to remind us that while we may and should enjoy our man-made world, in the end, perhaps we should put our trust someplace else. Because hidden among all the hard words of Jesus in this reading, there are a few hopeful nuggets. In verse 13, Jesus is predicting that his followers will be arrested and persecuted, but he finds a silver lining. This will give you an opportunity to testify. With that, Luke is pointing straight into the book of Acts, which he also wrote. Remember some times when Paul and the other apostles were arrested and imprisoned, and take that opportunity to tell people about Jesus. Those are the examples. Now, I realize that we Lutherans are not always known for our eagerness to tell the stories of Jesus to strangers. But maybe if things get as bad as Jesus is describing, we'll take the leap. After all, Jesus goes on to say, I will give you words and wisdom. We can trust God. Down at the end of this reading, after Jesus has added to that list betrayal by family and friends, death, or at least being hated, we have a strong word of encouragement from him. Not a hair of your head will perish. By your endurance, you will gain your souls. Persistence, endurance. These can sound like a tall order. Myself, sometimes I just don't feel like I have that much persistence in me. And when that happens, I usually realize that I am putting my trust in the temple or other worldly things. I am not putting my trust in God. As I was thinking about this, Mother Teresa came to mind. It's hard to overstate the good she did among the poor in India all throughout her lifetime. I found this beautiful description of her ministry in the National Catholic Register. Her spiritual mission is understood today as a call to radiate the light of Christ in the darkness of human misery and poverty. But after her death, we learned that she had struggled. She didn't always feel God's presence. At times, she found herself in a heavy spiritual darkness. And yet, for more than 50 years, she persisted. She endured. And even when she couldn't feel God's presence, she kept right on doing what was needed. You see, I believe that during those times when she felt far from God, God had not deserted Mother Teresa. God was giving her the words and the wisdom. And somehow she managed to trust God to be there, even when she could not feel God's presence. We are never given a guarantee that things will be easy, but we can always count on God being there. The persistence and endurance that we need come from God, whether we sense God's presence or not.